History made in the Middle East this morning. Egypt will have a president who is a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. The winner in the election, the runoff, has been declared. He is Mohammed Morsi. Morsi, a former Brotherhood official, gives Egypt its first Islamist president. You are now looking live into Tahrir Square as many members of the Muslim Brotherhood and their followers
Reaction from the crowd behind me in Tahrir Square. The last time we heard this kind of roar was the night Mubarak resigned from power during the revolution 16 months ago. The crowd here is going wild behind me. Mostly this is made up of the Muslim Brotherhood group and then the Salafists, who are a harder line version of the Muslim Brotherhood, that have been camping now in the square for about 3 or 4 days here awaiting these election results. We're now about a week away from when the election and the ballot box closed. Now Mohammed Morsi declared the president-elect of Egypt. Morsi's in his 60s. He's U.S. educated. You can probably still hear the roar coming up from this crowd. Remember, the Muslim Brotherhood had promised they would not run in the presidential election. Morsi was not even the Muslim Brotherhood's first pick of a candidate in the presidential election, but still he has won. Roughly the numbers are about 13 million for Mohammed Morsi, 12 million for Ahmed Shafiq, who was part of the old Mubarak regime. We have got fireworks going off, there's song breaking out, and of course the wild cheers here of this crowd. And Morsi had been able to capitalize not only on the Muslim Brotherhood's political machine, but also on a group called the Salafists, which make the Muslim Brotherhood look moderate in comparison. They came out also very strongly for Morsi, and this shows the power of the Muslim Brotherhood, which had been outlawed in this country for decades. And remember, Mohammed Morsi spent time in prison as a political prisoner for being part of the Muslim Brotherhood back when Mubarak was president. This is a huge change, not only for Egypt, but also, of course, for the Arab world. For so long, President Mubarak gotten 1 million to 1 odds, 10 million to 1 odds on this kind of thing happening 2 years ago. It was simply unthinkable for the Muslim Brotherhood to now take over the presidency in Egypt, and that is what we are now seeing as the result of the Arab Spring here in the mother of the Arab world. Eric?
An absolute amazing change of events. The generals, though, they have dissolved parliament. They've taken control, though they have promised to return to their barracks and hand over civilian control. Do you think that will happen, or is this more a symbolic victory for the Muslim Brotherhood?
That is going to happen to figure out in the next couple of weeks and months. The question is going to be whether the generals, or a little more than a dozen, who control SCAF, which is the Supreme Council of the Armed Forces that now runs this country, will ever take orders from the Muslim Brotherhood. And many of the generals inside SCAF are terrified of the Brotherhood. Remember, for a long time, it was the SCAF and their intelligence agencies and the feared secret police here in Egypt that was in charge of oppressing the Brotherhood, and now it's the Brotherhood that supposedly is going to take executive power. It seems highly unlikely at best that the army is going to ever give up full power. What you might have here, though, is a power split. where all of a sudden you have the Muslim Brotherhood controlling, say, the domestic situation here in Egypt, and then on the foreign relations side, the army and defense, the army still continues to have control. And the United States and Israel have spent a lot of time over the last 16 months really investing in their relationship with these generals that are at the very top. So they still try to have some kind of positive influence here inside Egypt. Right now, you have to realize the United States gives more than $1 billion a year in military aid here to Egypt, and you have a country now that has gone from being a strong U.S. ally led by Hosni Mubarak, who the United States could count on to talk to anyone, and as this crowd is going wild behind me for one reason and one reason only, and that is there is now a Muslim Brotherhood president who is controlling this country. And you have to keep in mind also, the election results here were very close, 13 million to 12 million. This was not a mandate here. When you break it down by percentage, it's less than 5% of the vote. About half the people voted, so less than 2.5% of the population here decided this election, and that tells you just how close it is. There is a number of people we talk to, especially the more educated and the wealthier segments of this population, which fear Mohammed Morsi leading this country, and then the Muslim Brotherhood-controlled parliament, if they're able to come back into office, are going to turn Egypt into an Islamic state, or certainly greatly curtail things here in terms of social democracy and also in terms of civil rights, for women to be able to be out in the street without a hijab. All these kinds of things are now in play. There's a lot of Egyptians who themselves are very scared about what President Morsi could do, and certainly the world is now going to have to redraw its power map and figure out how now to deal with the Middle East now that the mother of the Arab world is controlled by the Muslim Brotherhood.
Leland, it's Jamie. I'm curious, for the 12 million people that did not vote for the Muslim Brotherhood candidate, what will change immediately for them?
Immediately right now, nothing's going to change because you have, of course, the army still in control. But Ahmed Shafiq's, a big part of his support of those 12 million votes came from the Coptic Christian community here, and the Coptic Christians are very scared about what is going to happen to them now that the Brotherhood is in control. There have been a lot of sectarian clashes between the Christians and the Islamists here in Cairo especially, and also in Alexandria, and then in Upper Egypt, about 200 or 300 miles south of here, down in Luxor and Aswan. And this country is very, very divided right now, and those 12 million people who voted for Shafiq, many of them are Coptic Christians who now fear retribution and certainly a crackdown on their religious liberties that are going to come from this Muslim Brotherhood. A good idea, though, to sort of see how things are going to go is look at what happened when the Muslim Brotherhood won the parliamentary elections. Right now, Egypt is a country in the middle of an economic crisis. The Brotherhood wins the parliamentary elections, and the thing they immediately go for is to start tightening down the social laws here. They didn't really worry much about the economic crisis that was involved here in Egypt. They spent their time worrying about the social issues in terms of what women can wear, where they can wear it, where alcohol can be sold, and that's something that made a lot of people very scared about what President Morsi is going to mean going forward. On the other hand, you can see from behind me this crowd that is going wild in a way that we only saw 16 months ago when President Mubarak resigned, that this country is very divided. The Muslim Brotherhood enjoys huge support. The Salafists, which are a harder line version of the Brotherhood, also have huge support, and it is a very, very powerful political machine with a lot of money behind it that they have now brought out to bear, and that is what has driven Mohammed Morsi now into the president-elect seat here in Egypt. And this is going to be a very quick transition. Supposedly, the army is supposed to swear in President-elect Morsi sometime in the next few days before the end of the month.